It is becoming extraordinarily obvious to me at this point that Donald Trump is going to try something to either or both cancel and or manipulate the midterm elections that are now just 8 months away. It seems obvious from everything that Trump is saying. It seems obvious from everything that Trump is doing. He would love to cancel them. If he can't, he would love to delay the midterms. And if he can't, he would love to manipulate them so that the results are what he decides rather than what reflects the will of the people. Now, I want to be really clear so people don't think I'm saying this will happen. I am not claiming Trump can easily do it. I am not saying that the federal government even can cancel elections that are ultimately run by the states. What I'm saying is Trump would absolutely do it if he believed he could get away with it. And part of that is creating the right political conditions to claim that it's necessary. And that's what Donald Trump is doing right now. Now, over the weekend, I had a bunch of conversations with friends who were saying, what do you think about Trump using this Iran situation to cancel the midterm elections? I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think anyone would even fall for, we can't have elections in Georgia because Trump's bombing Iran. Put aside for a moment that Trump says the Iran stuff is going to last for 4 weeks. Put aside for a moment a lot of other different things. I just don't think Trump would try to use Iran as a justification for why we can't have elections. I think is extremely unlikely. Domestic chaos, on the other hand, I think is way more likely to be the reason why Donald Trump says we've got to delay or we've got to cancel, or at least I need to put my masked goons at every polling place. There are a few problems with that, and I've explained these before. States ultimately run their own elections. There isn't a magic switch where the president has canceled elections. It's important to remember that when a state runs its election, there are sometimes there's governors on the ballot, sometimes there's state representatives, there's state senators, and also people are casting votes for their members of Congress and senators in addition to that. But it doesn't really make sense that because the president in DC says something, people in Montana can't decide which state reps or state senators they want representing them. It doesn't make sense. States run their own elections. And so we then have to kind of think about what is more likely. It's difficult to just straight up cancel an election. Constitutionally, it's messy. The logistics are chaotic and kind of unclear, and it's very legally explosive. That has never stopped Donald Trump from trying to do things he's not allowed to do. And so we have to think a little more deeply about what is the likely path that he would take. First of all, creating or amplifying unrest sort of as just like a scaffolding for an environment in which maybe he can get away with it. If there is chaos in the streets, if there are mass protests, if he scales up the immigration crackdowns or deploys federal troops, declares emergencies over different things in different states, all those little blips on the map can help paint a bigger picture that would be potentially an environment in which Trump can make some kind of an argument. Then using that unrest to claim that the elections are under threat if they happen, right? Law and order is under threat. It's lawless out on the streets of our cities. States can't guarantee that the election will be safe, never mind accurate. And so we've got to do something here. And then maybe comes the idea of, well, what about a temporary postponement? For security reasons, of course, we need to delay when these elections happen. That would probably go to court very quickly. And there are a lot of good lawyers that are ready to try to stop that from happening. The courts would probably block that cancellation. But the attempt and then it going to court and people waiting to see what the court says, and I apologize, I hit my mic because I'm so passionate about this. The court chaos, the attempt, and then the court decision, that will destabilize trust in the process to a degree as well. And so we think back to January 6, 2021, which is now more than 5 years ago, incredibly. That was an attempt to overturn an election after losing. That is one sort of psychological barrier that has to be breached in order to potentially be successful there. If you can't overturn it after the fact, you would say, well, maybe we can deal with it as it's going on. Let's try to cancel it. If you can't cancel it, then you might go to, well, let's try to manipulate it. And manipulation can take a lot of different forms. It could be federal interference because we need to maintain election integrity. It might be putting pressure on state officials, which Trump has tried, and then looking at who are the secretaries of state in these different states. Are they loyal to Trump and to MAGA? Maybe we can replace them. Maybe we can push the governor to replace them. What about legal warfare, last minute rule changes, ballot challenges, voter roll purges? Let's get as many people as we can off of these voter rolls. That's another approach that they could take. They can also take an administrative approach, which is let's shrink the number of polling locations in hostile areas. Let's aggressively reject signatures, and let's just bury them in legal requests for recounts. That is sort of like informational warfare connected with interference and manipulation. We probably will hear Trump claim fraud in advance. That's a classic. We probably will see the administration telling friendly candidates declare victory early and right away, tell supporters that the losses are illegitimate. And so I'm sure Trump would love to cancel the midterms or delay them, especially as it looks like he's going to get crushed. But he doesn't really need to do the cancellation thing. If you can create enough confusion and disruption in enough critical swing districts, you might accomplish your goal. Now, a lot of Democrats are assuming that the elections are going to happen completely normally. I believe the elections will happen, but I don't think it's going to be completely normal. And this is what Democrats and the left really need to be ready for. I'm not predicting a clean midterms canceled. I do believe the elections will happen, but I'm worried about the incremental erosion that goes a little further and a little further and a little further, because this is how authoritarianism tends to arrive. Rather than tanks bulldozing polling places, it's some massed ICE agents here and a few secretaries of state there that are going to mess with stuff and pulling a few million people off of the voter rolls there. And then where a lot of people might end up is, well, he can't legally cancel the election, but is this level of chaos and threat and fear worth me pushing through to go out and vote? Maybe I'll just stay home, which is exactly what they want us to do, which is why we're not going to do it. We're going to have a lot more coverage about this between now and November. Thanks for watching. Check out this other video. And if you like our content, make sure to subscribe so YouTube puts our videos in your feed